Welcome to the Focus on Why podcast. I'm Amy Rowlandson and I ask my guests one simple question. Why? Focusing on the importance of why, I share with you the relatable, uplifting and inspiring conversations I have with people from all walks of life. This podcast will encourage you to focus on your why to enable and empower you to achieve the success you desire. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why. Before we start, I would like to draw your attention to my weekly email newsletter, Friday Focus. Each Friday, I focus on one topic with one action arising. The link to sign up is in the show notes, or head over to amyrowlandson.com and sign up right now. Today, on Focus on Why, I am joined by Charlie Lawson. Charlie, welcome.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's my pleasure, I'm sure. Well,
my pleasure too. We can both be pleasurable. Yeah.
Let's not argue about it. So tell me, Charlie, what is it you're up to at the moment?
Well, aside from the obvious of recording a podcast, no, I'm sure that's not the answer you were after. No, what am I up to at the moment? I help people to network. That's my thing. That's what I like to do. I particularly help professional services to do it. I help people to network. If I'm not doing that, then I'm probably going to be running, swimming, or biking in a triathlon, or keeping an eye out on where Spurs are in the Premier League. That's the stuff that keeps me pretty occupied.
Amazing. So it's a busy life.
Yeah, no, I didn't even mention the kids there. That's just terrible. Other half, no, I didn't mention them as well. Oh God, I'm in trouble. Lots to keep me busy. I'm not one for sitting around and I can picture jobs back in the day where it wasn't maybe where I was, I wasn't on a defined professional path at that time. Maybe a temporary job of some kind, and days where you're kind of watching the clock and filling the oh no, I can't cope with that at all. No, I like to be busy. The diary's busy. I like to keep myself doing stuff, definitely.
And it was interesting. I wasn't going to ask, because you might not want to have talked about the other side of life, the personal side, but you brought it in, so it's all good.
Well, I think it's fundamental, especially given what I do. So, okay, I teach people to network and how to get referrals. That's the main thing I do. But one of the biggest bits of advice I'll ever give people is, okay, usually it's in a business context. We're trying to promote our business, or we're trying to, you go to a business network event, or you spend time on LinkedIn, or whatever it might be. And that's obviously a, quote, business activity. But actually, when we're trying to get to know people, it's the person behind them that really counts. So I think that's really fundamentally important, and I'll encourage you. So I was on a call shortly before we did this recording, call with a prospect, and I was sort of talking to him about this kind of stuff. And so I said, well, go on, let's try it out now. And I will always ask the question, imagine you've got a free day. You've got nothing, no responsibilities to anyone. You could do whatever you like. What would you do? And he goes, I'd do a triathlon. And that's from heaven for me. I've already said I love a triathlon, so immediately we're off, and we kind of have to say, look, we only had a bit of time for this call. I could chat about triathlon all day, but he's like, I get the point. What we're doing is just connecting as people. When you connect as people and you find out what's behind them, I hate it when people put those posts up on LinkedIn and say, this is really one for Facebook, but I wanted to share something personal about it. No, share it, because that's what counts. It's what it makes such a difference.
So imagine you've got a free day.
Where'd you get that one from?
But seriously, in terms of, would you be doing what you're doing?
Okay, so what you mean? Would I be doing what I'm doing professionally? Like, if I could have it all my way, I'd be a Formula One racing driver, and that would definitely be what I'm doing. But I think I've missed the boat on that. That's not going to happen. No, I'm not being serious. I would have loved to have been, definitely. That would have been really cool. But I'm 6'5". I wouldn't fit in the car. That's just, I've just got to let that pipe dream go. No, would I be doing what I'm doing? I think I would. There's bits and pieces that I do in my life. So in the last 2 years, my life and professional life in particular has changed completely. I've gone from a position where I was running a business and had been for a number of years. I was in that business for 18, 19, nearly 20 years. And we sold the business, and I'm doing different things in my life now. Some of that is set up a different business and doing similar sort of stuff, and that's around the networking. But equally, at the same time, I've been able to spend more time with family, spend more time doing triathlons. Definitely do that. I've been able to do other things in my life, like voluntary stuff. I think volunteering is so important, and I think it's what makes local communities go round. And I've got a number of things that I do, and I've got the time to do it, and it's absolutely fantastic to do. But would I be doing what I'm doing? I think I would. Jokes aside about being a Formula One driver, because I guess the business that I was involved in, so it was a business called BNI. It's many listeners may well have heard of it. It's an organisation that helps small businesses to grow, and some people love it, some people hate it, and I'm not here to make judgments on that at the moment. But it definitely works and makes a difference for people. Can't speak. Because it's all about how they can help people. How, what goes around comes around. That's essentially the way it works. They call it givers gain. In life we call it what goes around comes around. And the more you can help people, the better. And I love helping people. And when I love a cause-based business, something that gets people thinking how to, your podcast is all about the why, isn't it? And that's really what it focuses on. I love seeing people, having been an unnatural networker myself, and I correct myself, I still am an unnatural networker myself, to see people who out there in the big wide world who struggle with social interaction, struggle with being able to bring business in, and they need to do that because they need to promote the business. They've got to put food on the table, all those things that require us to go and do networking, even if it's because we've been told to by our boss, by the way. I love seeing people, with the light bulbs go on and they go, actually, I can do this. And I guess as the unnatural networker who teaches people who are of the same mindset, I think I probably would be doing that. That's a very roundabout way of getting to the answer, I guess, there. But yeah, no, I think I would.
And what would you say are the qualities of an unnatural networker?
Well, the classic thing would be to think of the word introvert. Now, I appreciate that there are extreme forms of extroversion and introversion, and there's a scale there. And I'm not necessarily talking about the far extremes, but I'll give a perfect example of how it's my life constantly. I go to a social event, and I mean a social event. This is with friends, maybe family, friends, whatever it is. I still get the pangs of nervousness when I walk in the door of a social event, one where I know there's people there as well. I mean, clearly, I went to an event in the summer with Hannah, my other half, and it was an old school friend of hers. It was a silver wedding anniversary. They did get quite young, but it still made me think, getting on in life a little bit. Silver wedding, 25 years. And I literally knew no one there apart from Hannah. And that was well, it felt like I was at work, honestly. It felt hard. It really struggled to get, the motivation to go and do it, honestly. Being quite frank, give me a choice of going to, now we're at a business thing, but give you the choice of going to a business networking function or hanging out with my mates. I'd rather hang out with my mates. That's just the way it is. And I guess a lot of people look at networking like that. They don't find it easy to talk about themselves. They don't find it easy to go up to strangers and talk to them. They don't find it easy to promote themselves. So yeah, these are the sorts of characteristics I see amongst unnatural networkers.
And you described that pangs of nervousness.
Yeah.
What is it you were nervous about?
Oh, there's a litany of examples. I need to go have some therapy. Use this as a therapy session. That's definitely what I need. Now, what am I nervous about? Am I going to say something stupid? Is no one going to want to talk to me? Am I going to stand out like a sore thumb? If I put my head above the parapet, am I going to, say something that's in some way stupid? Not necessarily stupid. I'll give you a good example. We were all on WhatsApp groups, and I remember going back when WhatsApp was first around. A group of they're all old school friends, actually. There's a group of us that are still quite tight. Obviously, there's now many other halves and kids and all sorts have joined in the group. But we had a WhatsApp group going, and it was the first interaction I'd had with WhatsApp. It's so commonplace now. We have it all the time. You have a million WhatsApp groups on your phone, I'm sure. But this is literally the first one, and I've always struggled to post things on that. And let's be clear, these are close friends. They're people I've known for way longer than I care to try and remember now. And I still find it a bit, if I put something on that group, I think, oh, they're judging me. Oh, what are they thinking about what I've said? It's those kind of things. Now, I know rationally they're mates. They want to hear from me, and it's just the same when you go to an event or a social occasion. I know rationally, when I think about it, actually, yes, of course, people want to meet me. Of course, people want to see me there, but it doesn't necessarily help in the moment. And I guess I get a lot of people say, look, just that awkwardness of when you go into a room at a networking event. You walk in the door, maybe there's a sort of sign-in area or something like that, and then there's the people over there, congregate wherever over there is, and there's always lots of buzz and energy because there's lots of people talking. Obviously, what I always think? I think everyone looks like they know what they're doing, and I'm the only one that doesn't. Now, obviously, rationally, if I think about it, 5 minutes before when they walked in, they probably felt very similar. But yeah, that's the kind of challenges that I face.
And it's interesting, isn't it, when you walk into a room and you're making all of these different assumptions and your mind's working so fast and it's conjuring up all these different scenarios. And yet, say, for example, we both walked into a room and we didn't know anybody else in that room. And then we started chatting. Somebody who was walking in at the sign-in desk would just make the assumption that we knew each other.
Yeah. Definitely, and like I say, people always feel like they know what they're doing, but the reality is everyone's there just to meet people. Everyone's there just to, we're all there to do the same thing, and we think that people are making all these judgments. And okay, yes, if we, spilt food all down our shirt, then people might make a bit of a judgment about it. Of course they will, but most of the time they're not making judgments. They're just worried about their own stuff. And actually, if we just remember that, then we can actually have some lovely conversations. So yeah.
Yeah. And even if you did spill food down the front of your shirt, everybody would be thinking, thank goodness it was him and not me.
Exactly. Can you tell I'm speaking from personal experience?
But in terms of that and having that sort of experience happen to you, what then came as a result of that?
Well, look, in the end, what's funny is that I now teach people how to network. And it was always a big thing. Okay, I used to run BNI, one of the world's biggest networking organizations, and I was this unnatural networker. I now do it, as I say, is my own business now, and I teach people how to network. And you might think, well, there's an elephant in the room there. I mean, hang on, if I want to go and get networking advice, why would I go and do it from someone who is very open about the fact that they do struggle a bit with it? Now, let's just clarify. I don't struggle with how to network. I know very well how to network, and once I get into a conversation, look. 99.99% of people can have a conversation with someone. It's not something that we can't do, because we do it most of the whole time. But I would use a silly example here. Imagine you take a professional chef, okay? And let's say you were using a professional chef, you watch him on TV, and you were going to use that as your means to learn how to cook. Now, I don't know how good at cooking you listening to this, no judgment there. I'm not brilliant at it, definitely. But if I were to try and learn how to cook from a professional chef, you see, and it's a bit of this and here, a bit of that, it doesn't seem to be any measurement of anything. It's just like, in it goes, mix it all up. Probably a lot of butter in there. That's usually what seems to happen with professional chefs. And yeah, it tastes lovely, I'm sure. But they create this wonderful creation. I, as an unnatural cook in this case, would be none the wiser about what to do. You really need. Here's the thing: a lot of experts in any topic, anywhere, are passionate about the topic, and I'm not passionate about the topic, as I've hopefully made clear. And it means I'm speaking from the same perspective. I've got a bit of empathy with it. I remember one of the first speaking opportunities I ever had when I got booked as a speaker the first time, and I was there to go and talk about networking. And there were two speakers on that day. I was the second one on. And the first one, it being a networking event, was talking a bit about their perspective on networking, if you like. And I was thinking, I was sat in the audience and sort of, in fact, I was pretty pacing nervously at the back, because it was the first time I'd done anything like this. And he started talking about networking. I thought, am I going to have to change what I'm saying? I was going to talk about this. I was thinking, can I subtly try and change my? I was like, no, I can't try and change my slides. That would be really awkward. Anyway, he started regaling us with a story about a networking faux pas of his. And he basically he'd been quite targeted. He'd sort of got a list of delegates before the event, and he said, right, there's the person I need to speak to. Got to the event, saw that person at the other end of the other side of the room, and basically charged over and said, right, hi, I'm introduced himself and wanted to get to know him. The faux pas being he'd interrupted a conversation. That was the point he was making. I was sat in the audience, or as I say, pacing nervously at the back, and then I realized I'm okay, because you know what? I wouldn't have had the guts to go up to that person in the first place. So as I say, what being an unnatural networker has given me actually is a fantastic way to be able to help others, because as I say, most people go for advice to people who are passionate about the topic, and that doesn't necessarily mean they're the right person to help them. You actually need someone who's gone through the same journey. And I think that's, if you like, my USP of within network. The unique point about me is I actually don't like networking. And while that may seem like an elephant in the room first, really, actually that's what makes me, really helpful for people.
Is it that you don't like networking in its entirety, or just elements of it?
I think it's probably elements of it. Honestly, when you get into a conversation, you have a good conversation, and you start talking about, with me, triathlons, maybe it doesn't matter. It's something that, you can actually have a lot of fun. And here's my thing about it. Actually, I think the biggest challenge that most people have with networking is the word networking. Literally, spell it out. I shouldn't have tried to spell it out. That was a bad NETWORKING. It's the word that's the issue. Because if you think about it, well, all networking is talking to people and building relationships. Think about it for a sec. Do you have any friends who you go for dinner with? Do you sit with a client over a coffee sometimes? Do you go and have a drink with some, all of those, even in the supermarket, when you just have to bump into someone what do? You talk to them. And over time, when you keep talking to people and keep seeing people, you build relationships. The thing is, no one has a problem with having some friends around for dinner and having a chat with their friends, because we don't look at it as networking. In the end, it's actually the same thing, maybe a different goal, maybe a different, reason for doing it in the first place, but it's exactly the same thing. It's the word networking that causes people an issue. So yeah, I think there's plenty that people can take into it. Yeah, I agree. I definitely don't like some parts of networking, and I'll always be unnatural. It will always be a bit of, oh, really? Do I have to go to that event and walk into a room of people I don't know? I'll always feel slightly awkward, but I'll always get into that situation and go, you know what? Actually, it's fine when you get into a chat. And there's when it becomes, no one goes networking to make friends, but when you are doing fun stuff and having good conversations and having a laugh, honestly, that's when networking becomes enjoyable.
Do you have a word that you would relabel it as?
It's a good question. I should have one of those. I don't know. Quick answer. No, I don't. But you've given me some good thoughts, and I might well come up with one. What would I relabel it as? I honestly, I want to make it something towards having fun, and that's what describes. You think of the people you have a good, close relationship with, you'll have fun with them. You'll have shared experiences where you have fun. You'll have conversations where you have a good laugh about something. It becomes fun. So I would want it probably to be, I may need to perfect it exactly what the word is, but yeah, something around fun. I think that's so crucial.
And you mentioned earlier about having a cause-based business, and what you're doing, you described it as helping people to network and how to helping them to get referrals. So is the work you're doing, it's not about the networking at all. It's about what you're allowing your clients to then be able to do with their businesses, and what that then goes on to create. So it's the ripple effects that you're creating, which is
definitely,
driving you.
It's the, I guess, if you think of the why, the how, and the what, what do I help people do? I help people to network more effectively to do it. How do I do it? Well, I train them and focus on how to do it. But why do I do it? It's because it frustrates me to see people who have such great gifts. I mean, how many times do you hear someone say something like, I'm really good at what I do, but there's other people who just seem to get more attention or seem, more comfortable to shout about themselves. Who get the opportunities. So yeah, seeing people get those opportunities, I just love seeing that. So yeah, that's the why for me.
And focusing on the why bit, seeing people and who've got these incredible gifts, and you get frustrated from them not being, what is it exactly that's happening?
Well, I think I'm going to turn to my. This is actually quite ironic, because I'm going to promote myself, and I not only call myself an unnatural network, I call myself an unnatural promoter. And the title of my second book, appreciate this is on audio, but I'm showing Amy this just for the purposes, is my second book, The Unnatural Promoter. And the subtitle of The Unnatural Promoter is how anyone, emphasis on the anyone, can blow their own trumpet without feeling awkward. And the day I realized I was an unnatural promoter was the day that my first book, The Unnatural Networker, came out. I'll tell you the story quickly. It's quite funny. So this is when I was in my BNI days. I as I say, I ran BNI nationally, and in the office that we had there, we had a room that we used for training. I guess it would be what it was, but it'd been converted by the team into a launch party for the book, for The Unnatural Networker. And the team had done a wonderful job. They'd made it look great. It was an after work do, so people turning up sort of 5:30, 6-ish. Bit of networking. They'd hear me speak. Bubbles, canapes. Done a really nice job. And it comes back to that point we were talking about. My rational thoughts were overtaken by my panicked thoughts. Where was I at 5 to 6 when the event with people were there? I was due to start speaking probably at just past 6 or something. Where was I at 5 to 6? And a panicked team came scurrying around trying to find me. I was upstairs hiding in the office, supposedly catching up with some emails. I don't know. I probably wasn't doing anything, but I was just awkward and felt, do I have to come and talk about that? It wasn't just the fact it was a networking event on that occasion. And again, like I said, rationally, I know that people wanted to be there. I know that people wanted to hear my experiences of how I'd written a book. I know they were keen to get a picture with me or for me to sign a copy or whatever it might be. I still just felt awkward having to shout about myself, to promote myself. And you see a lot of people who are like that. And I think the two books, if you like, are almost, they're not fiction, but if they were, then The Unnatural Promoter is the prequel to The Unnatural Networker. Because what The Unnatural Promoter says is, look, if you don't feel comfortable shouting about yourself, get a good network around you and they'll do it for you. Because when you've got your raving fans, they'll shout about you. And then The Unnatural Networker gets into how you can really leverage that once you've got that network going. So yeah, that's my take on being an unnatural promoter.
Yeah, I love it. And it is awkward talking about yourself at times, but it's the framing and understanding the purpose behind it, the understanding of what it's going to unlock for others, right?
Yeah, definitely. And when you do look at it from the point of view of how you can help others, sometimes I think, do I want to put myself forward for this? But you actually think, no, there are people on this earth who need what I've got to say. And as big-headed as that feels, me just saying that right now, it feels strange for me to say it, even though I know you've asked me the question and we're having, and it's the right things. It still feels awkward, but there are people who need your service. And however much you might feel awkward about telling people about it, they need it. You've got to get it out there. And that's one of the challenges I have with my life. Is, I've started a new business in the last year and I've had to tell people about what I'm doing. And I promise you, those posts feel awkward, just like it does when I'm posting on my friend's WhatsApp group. It feels slightly awkward because are they judging me? What are they going to think? All that kind of stuff. But now you've got to do it. And I think posting on LinkedIn's the primary social platform that I use. That's one that I've gone through a real journey on. A couple of years ago, I hardly ever posted on LinkedIn. I now post very regularly on LinkedIn, and I've become more comfortable. It doesn't mean I find it easy, but it's a great case study of how you can become more comfortable with it, and you start to see some results from it as well, which is fantastic from my point of view.
And in respect to the journey that you've been on, is that part of life as well at this time of your life?
Yeah, it is. I think I've been asked many times where this slight awkwardness to promote myself and awkwardness to to go and go up to strangers and so forth comes from. And look, I'm not great with memories from my early life, but the time I can picture that this makes the most sense. I'm not going to try and say this is absolutely 100% cast iron guarantee where this all comes from, but the picture that makes the most sense, and it's something I've been working on in my life ever since. It takes me back to when I was sort of late teenage years. So 16, 17, 18, that sort of time. And in our family dynamic, so I had two sisters, one older, one younger, and it is absolutely true that middle children have it the hardest. I don't know if you can corroborate that, but I definitely say it's the case. And then my mum and dad. And the scene I picture is a sort of weekend meal, so slightly more so. It's not like in the week when everyone's rushing to get off and do whatever they need to do. It's at the weekend. It's a bit more time. We're having a conversation about whatever might be going on. I don't know why, but I always picture it at maybe sort of winter time when the nights are drawing in. It's that sort of cold outside but cozy inside, and the kitchen is always the hub of activity in any family, and it was any household, and it was the same for us as well. And the conversation would often be started by my elder sister. So she's called Anthea. She's super bright, super intelligent. She's been very successful in what she does. And she would often raise something. It would have been, I don't know, whatever's going on in the world that particular time or whatever it was. And often it'd be my dad that would engage with her. And I'm not saying it would necessarily be an argument, but it would definitely be strong opinions. And sometimes it would be an argument, sometimes it wouldn't. But it'd definitely be, the conversation would escalate. My younger sister would come in, my mum would come in. But there was always one person who didn't. And that was me. And my role was probably in my family was to sit in the corner and, being honest, take the mick, say something funny. That's what that was my role. And it wasn't necessarily because, I mean, sometimes I didn't necessarily know enough about the conversation to really contribute, but most of the time I did. It wasn't like I didn't have the confidence because they were the people in, they were my family. I mean, you wouldn't know anyone better, but I still didn't really want to put myself out there. And it came, picture the time that was 16, 17, 18, that sort of time. So sort of time when you're getting out and about, you want to meet people, you want to meet, members of the opposite sex. In my case, I didn't have the confidence to go and do it. And honestly, just as an aside, the number of parallels there are between networking and dating is unbelievable. It's ridiculous. So it's a whole nother topic. But I didn't have the confidence just to go up to people and talk to them. So yeah, that's where it feels like it derives from in terms of where that why comes from. And when I see people who struggle with it, getting themselves promoted, or struggle to go up to strangers and talk to them, that's what I love seeing now. You mentioned, does this come up in my normal life? It's not just in business, it is in everywhere in life. Sometimes you'll see something, and good example, this is my mum. She's really good at blagging stuff. She'll go and talk to anyone. She's a very natural networker, by the way. And we might be at something, I don't know, I can't think of a good example, and she'll say, I don't know, the station or something like that, and she'll blag an upgrade to the first class seat because she's just prepared to go and ask. I'll never go and do that. I just won't. So yeah, I definitely see it in my life on a regular basis.
And you mentioned earlier, Charlie, about how volunteering was so important and that it makes local communities go round.
Yeah.
What is it that you plough yourself into?
There's various things, actually. And this is where it's been lovely that I've had the time to do it, having sold the business. So three main ones come to mind. One, I'm a governor at my son's secondary school, and I just think that's such an empowering thing to do. It was funny, actually. I got voted in as a governor it was about this time last year, so end of 2022, early 23. It was around then, and I started in March 23, something like that. And awful, by the way, because I had to put myself up for election, so I had to promote myself. Nightmare. Terrible. I hated that. Fortunately, I managed to flag my way through somehow. But because I'm quite keen and I'm keen with it, I think if you're going to volunteer for something, you do it properly. There's no point just doing it and not getting stuck in. Also, because I do, quite a lot of bit training and speaking, I'm confident on my feet in front of a room. So at the start of the academic year, just started in September 23, all the year 7 parents are new, and they were there for a sort of get to know the school. And I said, Charlie, go and talk to them about your experience as a governor. And I just literally stood up, and I'd seen it done before, because that's where I got attracted to, the idea of being a governor in the first place. And it was all about the responsibilities. You've got to do this, got to do that, got to do that. And I was like, I just said, I love being a governor. It's so much fun, honestly, and it's empowering, and it gives me a sense of real fulfillment that I give something back to the obviously I want my son's school to be a good school, clearly, but it gives me a sense of satisfaction that you make a difference for people. So, and yeah, we had a bunch of people come forward and say they want to do governor. They just love my passion for it. So yeah, that's one thing I do. I'm a member of a local running club, and I've started volunteering, doing some running coaching. I've done a leadership in running fitness qualification with the England Athletics. I've still got the last bit to do, by the way, so I can't say I'm qualified yet, but I'm getting close. So I do that, and I just love that. And the other one I do, there's a place near me, a community project, I think you call it, and so I'm in northwest London, which is basically suburbia, and that's all there is around me. But there's this place called it's on basically in an old farm, basically in Cricklewood. And if you're in the northwest London area, I don't know, give them a shout, give them a promote. You should come down and check it out. But you think of a sort of, it's not central London, but zone 2 London. It's quite it's in the city, if you like. But there was a farm, there these playing fields, and there's been various disputes as to whether they could get developed on in time. I hope not, because it's just lovely to have the green space. Anyway, the old farm buildings can be converted into community space. There's a cafe, there's gardens, there's workshops that go on there. My other half, she's a ceramicist, and she's set up a pottery studio. She teaches pottery there. There's a couple of other units that local businesses have taken, and I volunteer in the cafe, trying to make coffees. I can do a latte and a cappuccino. I can manage those. Flat white, much harder. Different. I'm getting there with that. But yeah, I genuinely love doing things for the community. I think it's so important. And when you look around, actually, there's a lot of people who do small, even something just really small. Do it for the community. Do it for people around. As I say, it's what makes communities go round. And I working in the cafe, honestly, is the highlight of my week. I just do a couple of hours, and it's the highlight of my week. I love it.
Yeah, amazing. So, in terms of focus on why, you've talked about the why behind your work. You've talked about the why behind your volunteering. And in terms of purpose, has it been something that you've consciously sought out, or is it something that you've created and crafted?
I think it is something I'm pretty conscious about now. I wouldn't say that's always been the case. I mean, when I was going through that experience I outlined at the dinner table with my family when I was 16, 17, I had no idea what was going on. I was just trying to think of something funny to say and vaguely contribute to the conversation. But yeah, certainly when during my time with BNI, we did a lot of work on focusing on why, and we did a lot on our purpose. Lots of organizations will have their very grand mission and vision statements and all that sort of thing. But I think much more important is your purpose statement, why you do what you do. And we got into working with we had a franchisee team. So we were running that team of 60 odd people, all independent franchisees. And we really got them onto the subject of why, primarily using Simon Sinek, start with why type material. Most listeners will, I'm sure, be relatively familiar with that. So I think that's where it started. And yeah, probably wasn't intentional before then, but since then, definitely, I'm really looking for the why. And whenever I'm giving any sort of presentation, any sort of talk, trying to persuade someone, I'll always look to start with a why. I mean, good example is that. When I was asked to promote the opportunity of being a school governor to those new the year 7 new parents at the school, I didn't come in with what it was about. I just love it. It's just brilliant. I just focused on why I do it. So yeah, I think it's a fundamental part of my life now.
And that is the thing that, yes, we're aware of Simon Sinek's and the start with why, and that's how things get sort of initiated. For me, the focus piece, the continuation and the evolution of the why is just as important.
Yeah, definitely. It's a constant process for sure, and yeah, I guess if you look at Simon Sinek, he talks about that's very much about how you might sell something, or describe yourself or your product or your service, whatever it may be. But yeah, it's everywhere when you think about it. And yeah, the more you can talk about it, and actually a good point I talk about it in the book The Unnatural Promoter, is one of the great ways to have a better network about them around you is to be really clear about your why. It's much easier, and most people would do this. If let's say you're standing up asking, you're asking your network for help with something, and you really like an introduction to a certain company. Just take that as an example, and you say, I'd really like this introduction because, well, that will help me to grow my business and make a difference. Yeah, they might act on it. Sure, I'm not saying they wouldn't, but it's much less compelling to say, look, I really want to help people who have this given situation. I'd really like to do this because that's powerful to me. I really like to help people who struggle to talk to strangers because I know the difference is made to me and what networking's done for me. So I want to help other people like that. And so I'd like to speak to this company where there's lots of people who find themselves in that boat. Yeah, it becomes much more powerful with referral generation if you can be really using your why and sharing it regularly. The more you can share it, it's going to deepen a relationship. When you're open and honest and you're truthful with people about what your why is, that's helping illustrate a depth of relationship that will make it much easier for people to get to know you and want to help you.
And do you have a purpose statement that's a concise one at all, like a mission and a vision statement, but purpose statement?
That's a good question. You know what? I really should. I don't for my new business. And you've given me. I've got a to-do list now. After this, I'll give you an example. Though, where as I said, when I was working with the franchise team in franchisee team in BNI, we very much focus on it, and it would be something like this, but that was more on a wider scale. So we talked about developing people in business to change lives in rich communities, and that was why we did what we did. Now, I'm not necessarily saying I'm going to change a whole community because that's the nature of what BNI was compared to what I'm doing now. It's more about the individual person, but to change their lives and enrich their business, that would still be the overall tenor of it would be the same.
And for you, Charlie, what would your life purpose statement be for you yourself?
Have fun. Don't worry about it. I definitely have the don't worry about it in there because I definitely worry about too much stuff. And like we said before, it's not about what people are thinking. They've got enough going on in their own plate. They're worrying about their own stuff. In terms of that slightly shy nervousness that you might be thinking, they're not thinking about that. There's lots of other things that they're thinking about. So yeah, don't worry about it. I think that's would have been there, and definitely have some fun while you're doing it.
Sounds like advice you'd give to your kids too, right?
Yeah, definitely. I just love seeing when the kids do something. Proud parent moments. Any parent will have that. An example of this isn't something necessarily to be probably so proud about. Some people will definitely think that's not something to be proud about. My 14-year-old son has recently just massively got into football. Now, he's always quite liked football, and I'm a football fan, as I mentioned before, and I've probably been, when he was very young, I was whispering sweet nothings about sporting Tottenham Hotspur, trying to get infiltrated in some way. But recently, he's really got into it. A couple of things come to mind. There was a time we were away with my other half's family, and Spurs were playing that night, and it was, for some reason, I don't know why they put football on a Friday evening, but it was on a Friday evening. And I thought, well, I'm not going to get to watch it. And Alfie was like, Dad, when are we going to watch the game? He's pushing me to what, he's just, whereas before it was always me kind of saying, do you fancy it? It was him saying, no, Dad, we need to go and do it. But the other thing, the main one for me with him and his football is he's joined a local football team. So for his age group. And at the weekend, I've done it a couple of times now, but the weekend they often play in Regent's Park in London, where lots of teams around, there's 15, 20 pitches or whatever, and lots of games going on constantly. And I'm living vicariously through him and just seeing him, because when I was young, I was crap at football. And so because you're rubbish at football, I didn't play. And that meant everyone else got better at it. And I'd stayed the same, still really bad at it. And then when I did when I was, I don't know, early 20s, I did start playing a bit. And I was okay. I'm not very good. I couldn't do very much, would never score flashy goals, but I could do a job. And I just wish I'd just pushed myself to go and do it when it was his age. And now seeing him do it and really enjoy it and start to thrive in it. His team won 5-0 at the weekend as well, so that was very enjoyable. Yeah, I just, that feeling of, you know, encouraging your kids to do what's important to them, I think is really powerful.
Yeah, and it gives you the community, it gives you the sense of belonging, gives you that team collective purpose as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of benefit. I mean, okay, some people will probably be, you know, listen to this and go, oh God, he's on about football or whatever. But you know, you can apply it in any walk of life, and you're absolutely right. That the team, the relationships that come from that, the sense of collective purpose, the accountability being in a team gives. There's so much that comes from that.
Yeah, amazing. And that's the thing, isn't it? I don't see it as being a vicarious. I see it as a gift, you know, to give your children opportunities that you perhaps didn't take yourself. So
yeah, that's true. But I'm definitely living it vicariously as well, because I'm just hitting every ball, and you know, just love watching him do it. It's brilliant.
well, it's a connection, isn't it? It's a great.
Yeah.
I mean, I've loved watching my children play sport, and you know they're both away at university, so I don't get to see them play directly as much anymore, which is a shame.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an incredible thing, a privilege to have. So
Definitely.
enjoy while they're still at home and around.
Definitely, yeah.
Charlie, it's been an absolute pleasure. And if anyone is thinking about how to connect to you as the Unnatural networker, the Unnatural promoter, what's the best way for them to do that?
2 places. LinkedIn is definitely where I mentioned it before. Definitely on there regularly. So just look up Charlie Lawson, and you'll see Unnatural Success. That's me all over the place. The other one is just the website unnaturalsuccess.com. That's the very, very easy way to get me. So yeah, LinkedIn or there is the best way to do it.
And it's something we haven't actually spoken about, is the unnatural success element. Can you just share with us what that's about?
Yeah, that came from, I mean, you and I met at a professional speaking association do, and my time in the PSA, the thing I got out of it most, I love going to the big events and seeing some of the speakers that you have and learning from that, and the chance to put yourself in front of your peers. That's terrifying, but a great thing to do. But the thing that's really came from the PSA was my mastermind group. And I have a group of there's 5 of us. It's adapted slightly over time as one of, you know, people have dropped out or done different things. One moved away, one's left the speaking profession, but the core has been the same, and we just and the point of it's the same as well, just to, you know, build deep relationships that really help each other. And one of them said, you know, if you don't, I think this was a few years ago when I'd done the Unnatural. I hadn't done the Unnatural promotion at that point. All I had was the Unnatural network, and I was looking to build a business over time. I was still with BNI at the time, and thinking, you know, that was good for me and BNI, but it was also good to think what the future might look like. And she says, if you don't register the name Unnatural Success, you're absolutely mad. So I did it that day. And as soon as I was ready to set up the business, I looked at started Unnatural Success. So obviously I cover the networking and, you know, self-promotion elements. But over time, I'd like to create maybe a sort of Unnatural Success Academy. So you look at lots of different experts in different fields, but all of them have that same thing. They're not particularly passionate about what they do, but they get it across in a way that helps people who struggle with it. So I'm thinking the unnatural leader, the unnatural salesperson, the unnatural, hey, let's go back to cooking, unnatural cook. You know, who knows? I'm joking a bit, obviously, but yeah, that's where I see that morphing into in time. But for the moment, I'm getting it going with the networking and unnatural networking in particular.
I love that. It sounds fantastic, and I look forward to watching that journey go forward. So thank you so much for sharing why you do what you do, and why you are who you are, and what you're up to. Do you have some final words, Charlie, for the listener, please?
Yeah, final words. don't worry about it. Just do it anyway. I think that's probably the best way to sum it up. Look, I'm saying that mainly to any unnatural networkers who are listening to this. If it feels awkward, that's a good thing. Challenge yourself. Get out there. I promise you, networking is a learned skill. All it is talking to people and building relationships with them, as I said before. So get out there and try it. I don't think there's anything wrong with always feeling slightly unnatural about it. Hopefully it's perfectly obvious. I get that every time I go networking. But in the end, they're just people and they want to meet you. They really do. So just get out there and do it.
How has this conversation had an impact on you? What value have you received from tuning in? What are your reflections with actions? Please take a moment to leave me an Apple Podcast or Spotify review sharing how Focus on Why has made a difference to you today. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. To keep it going, simply connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook or Twitter, or join the Focus on Why Facebook group. All the links are in the show notes. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why.